Scream is a film that defined 90s horror. I mean, you cannot have a conversation about 90s horror and not mention Scream pretty much outright. So I think we all have that one film as horror fans, or if not more, that we just don't like. You know, I've known people who are hardcore horror fans and they don't like the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. I know someone who doesn't like Halloween. I know someone. We all have that film. And Scream was pretty much always that film for me. It was that one that everyone was just like, oh man, isn't it the best? You love horror, you must love it. And I'm just like, it didn't do it for me. You know, in the time especially, it just didn't work for me. And I've seen it maybe like 3 or 4 times since, always trying to give it another chance, see what, blah, blah, blah. And it didn't. So I figured, hey, you know, I started this channel. This would be a fun time. I'm reviewing a bunch of series on here. So I'm going to go back. I'm going to check out all 4 of the Scream movies. And let's have some fun with it. And I tried to go into this one. I mean, I know the film pretty well now. So but I wanted to go into it as possible and just kind of look at it through new eyes. So anyway, my personal story with this movie is this movie came out when I was a freshman in high school, and my world at that time, like, I think everyone has their high school celebrity crush that's like the big one, and Drew Barrymore was hands down, no one was even close, my big crush. And, you know, here was a horror movie directed by Wes Craven, you know, with Drew Barrymore in it. And I just went ape shit. Like, oh my God, this is going to be amazing. And while I will say that the opening of this movie is iconic and awesome, I do love the opening of this movie. It sets a really good tone, whatever. And Drew Barrymore is not only gorgeous in this, but it's an iconic scene, and that's mostly due to her. And rewatching it, it still holds up very well. It's a great scene. And I heard that Drew Barrymore was, you know, originally offered the part of Sidney Prescott, and she turned it down because she thought that, you know, this scene would be more iconic. And she was right. Absolutely. It was the better role, I feel. So yeah. But I went into this movie like stoked out of my mind. And this is going to sound like I was a total loser in high school. And that's because I was a total loser in high school. Horror has always been my thing. I mean, I think there's a lot of fans out there that are fans of the genre, and they're just like, I really like horror. And you talk to them and you're like, oh, you're a casual fan. And that's cool. Nothing wrong with that. But like, I fucking breathed. I bled horror. Like, I was a horror kid. That's how everyone knew me. Like, back then it was like, oh, Jason, the guy that's into horror movies. And it's, I mean, we had people get together with my parents thinking I was going to become a serial killer one day. Maybe I am. Maybe there's a body laying right next to me. Now, shut up. Now, I think that with this, you know, with those expectations, my excitement, like, because I was that horror guy, I went in and this is weird. As I said, this is funny. This movie was actually like offensive to me as a kid. Like, when I went into this, because it is just parodying everything I loved about horror and pointing out all the cliches and all, like, you know, which Wes Craven, I mean, obviously that's kind of the joke, is that Wes Craven was the one who helped spawn all these sequels and all these cliches that came to be. Which is cool. I mean, I really respect Wes Craven, of course. I mean, how could you not, as a horror fan? But I found it very, like, annoying, and like, I was sitting there like, hey man, fuck you, you know. And the Jamie Kennedy character was, I guess, supposed to be me, obviously, and I just didn't relate to him, even though he was like the horror guy and knew his shit. I don't know, it just didn't sit right with me. Nothing really worked for me. Everyone felt like a parody. Everyone felt like this archetype to make fun, and that's this whole movie. It's a parody, which of course then is ironic because Scary Movie is a parody of this. So, like, Scary Movie is a parody of a parody. Which and that's another thing, like, I love Scary Movie. I think it's hilarious. And it parodies this film so well. And it is impossible for me to watch this movie without thinking about that movie the entire time. Like, every scene that they parody, like the PG-13 relationship, which shows them the tits, and in Scary Movie, it's like the man's jiggly hairy ball. That is that kills me. And when I'm watching this movie, it's so hard to disconnect. So I was laughing a bunch watching this, like, oh yeah, in Scary Movie this happens. And obviously the original title of this movie was supposed to be Scary Movie. Let's talk about things that I did like about this movie. And I enjoyed it more than I ever have this time. I definitely wouldn't say I'd loved it, because I don't think that's ever going to happen, but I enjoyed it enough. As I said, the Drew Barrymore opening is fabulous. I'm a big fan of Matthew Lillard. I think that he's a person that is like, you love him or you hate him. I totally get why people hate him. He reminds me of like a Pauly Shore or something. Like, that shit works for you or it just doesn't, and it's irritating, and you're like, who is this fucking guy and why won't he go away? But as a huge fan of like SLC's Punk and whatnot, I love Matthew Lillard. So yet again, I love him in here, but I totally understand when people are like, that guy's annoying as shit. And it's like, that's him. Like, that's what I like about him. He's so bombastic. He's so outspoken and over the top, but it just works for me because I like the guy. Another thing that I really like about this movie, and now I don't know of any other movie off the top of my head, which is crazy, but I'm sure it happens, and I'm sure someone will comment and be like, you idiot, this isn't. And I'm like, oh yeah, duh. But I can't think of another slasher movie whodunit. I mean, all slasher movies are basically whodunits, for the most part. And it's like, I don't know any other ones that have two killers as the villains at the end. So that was really smart and a clever way to, show this one's here and here's the killer, and, it couldn't be him now. So it's very smart. As I said, I can't think of anything off the top of my head. Please tell me which ones were before this. And then, Rose McGowan. I mean, God, she's just so beautiful in this movie. This movie references so many things. One of the coolest references I saw in this was a quote from River's Edge, which is a fantastic fucking movie with Keanu Reeves and Dennis Hopper and Crispin Glover. Oh, if you haven't seen that movie, that's like one of the best 80s dramas ever. So I was very surprised to see that talked about in here. And then, you've got just tons, like the janitor has the Freddy sweater on and he calls him Fred. And I like when Rose McGowan's character calls the director Wes Carpenter. I thought that was funny. One thing that even on this viewing was pissing me off, and this shouldn't piss me off, but I'm a horror fan and I can't let it go, I guess, is how out of sync Halloween is in this movie. Like, Jamie Kennedy's character is watching Halloween with a group of people, and every time they go to it and back to it and here and there, it's like earlier in the film than it was before, or it's like only seconds later, even though it's been like 10 minutes, and then like they come back and it's like the scene's being played over again like 3 times. Oh, it was driving me crazy on this viewing. I've seen that movie so many times, so I know every single second and where, it goes on. I did find the Nightmare sequels suck quote in this. All the Nightmare on Elm Street sequels suck. I thought that was funny for him to throw in there, even though I think Nightmare on Elm Street 2 is the fucking greatest of the series. I know, I'm crazy. Look, I don't like Scream, and I think Nightmare on Elm Street 2 is the best. I don't even know why you're watching me. I don't know what the fuck I'm talking about. I do like how shitty of a person Gale Weathers is. I mean, she's just unabashedly a horrible human being in this movie. I don't remember the sequels all that well. That I'm actually really looking forward to going back and watching 2, 3, and 4, because I don't even know who the killer is in 4. I have no memory of it. I thought it was cool to hear Don't Fear the Reaper in here. Another Halloween nod. As I said, the nods to it. Now, paying attention this time, really like trying to review this and pay attention, I think it's they definitely do a lot of foreshadowing to Billy and Matthew Lillard's character as being the killers. And that scene at the fountain, it's very like once you know it, they're like the way they're bouncing off of each other and the way he's looking at him, like nah, like you know, it's like wow, it's like really apparent, and you just it takes that second viewing, whatever viewing I'm on now, but it's really apparent. Another part of Halloween in here, God, I'm gonna keep bitching about this, but like there's a scene where Michael's hiding in the pantry and Bob comes up and he comes out, and in that moment the kid that's in watching the movie out, he's like oh my God, look at the blood, why do they do that, it doesn't look real, it's too red. And I'm like, there's no fucking blood in that scene. Come on, Wes Craven, Wes Carpenter, whatever the fuck your name is. Like, you should know better. Like, how dare you? There's no damn blood in the Bob kill scene, especially in that moment. Jerk off. This is a horror fan, man. I am livid. No. Here's another thing I really just didn't work for me at all in this movie. I don't like the look of Ghostface. I think he looks stupid. Now, I think that goes towards the whole fact that this is like a parody. It's a joke. It's a gag. The whole movie is a gag. You're not supposed to take it seriously at all. It's just a parody of shit. And I guess the costume speaks to that. It looks goofy. I don't find it scary in the slightest. I know that the original costume was supposed to be like all white, and they were too afraid that people were going to think it looked like the Ku Klux Klan, which I think would have even looked dumber. I don't know, but I just don't like it. It's not spooky. It's not creepy. It's not anything. I never look at that. Like when you see like Michael Myers' mask, like when he comes up behind Laurie Strode and you see that mask just peer through, like it's fucking scary, man. That mask is terrifying. And I know that behind the scenes on that they had a decision to make between that and this like really spooky clown mask, I guess they had. And John Carpenter just had a vision and he was like, no, that's the fucking mask. That's scary. This is just featureless, dead-eyed man. Like that's terrifying. This ending, yet again, it was like, shut the fuck up. Like it felt like a Bond movie. That's what it felt like at the end. It was just like over explanation of why and how they were going to get away with it. And they just talk so much. They were such shitty killers too. And a lot of the kills in this movie, I mean, I'm not going to try to pick on that stuff, but a lot of kills in this movie don't make any sense and aren't possible. A fucking garage door cannot lift you up and crush your head. A TV doesn't break on your face. Those old TVs were like this thick, man. You'd have to hit it with a baseball bat. Just like pushing it off, like landing on your face would not break open. It's stupid. But anyway, it's not like made of like fucking, light bulb glass where you like flick it and it breaks. Anyway, that's stupid. But they're just shitty killers. Like, how many people did they try to kill in this? And they could, I mean, he had more success killing Matthew Lillard's character than he did Gale or, Dewey, Doofus. So I was just like, really? Like, how many people have you stabbed that survived this? You killed your fucking mate? Maybe he did that on purpose. I don't know. Yeah, I'm really looking forward to watching the next Scream. I think I might have a little bit more fun with it, but yet again, I know that it's all it is a parody of horror sequels. I mean, so we'll see how I have fun with that. But I mean, I'm sure I'll just get bashed to shit for hating this movie. I didn't hate it this time, but I'm still not huge on it. But we all have that one. Admit it. Tell me which one in the comments that you don't like, so I can call you crazy.